Welcome to Be That Lawyer, Coach's Corner with Steve Fretzin.
Hello and welcome back to Be That Lawyer, Coach's Corner with Steve Fretzin. Now, Steve is a 5-time author, business development coach for attorneys, and the founder of Be That Lawyer, where he helps lawyers grow their business with less stress and more control. I'm Evan Mack, and in today's episode, we're talking about time. If you ever said, I just don't have the time for business development, this episode is for you, because the truth is productivity isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right things consistently. This is Time Management and Productivity for Busy Attorneys. Steve, sir, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Evan. Appreciate being here.
Awesome. Right. Like, you work with a lot of busy lawyers. What's the biggest time traps you see that prevent them from growing their practices?
Generally, they're on the billable hour, many of them, and so like they have requirements of how many billable hours they need to have each and every day, each and every week, month. And in addition to that, in many cases, they're what are called service attorneys, and service attorneys are unique because not only do they have the billable hour, but they have partners at their firms sending them work. They have clients that have needs. And they're really at the beck and call of all these different bosses, if we want to call them bosses. And so their time really isn't their own, which is one of the reasons that we focus on helping lawyers with time management and help them with business development, because it allows them to get out of the service role and continue to be a great lawyer, but focus on building business, marketing, and doing things that allow you to control your own destiny. But, I would say the billable hour email is obviously a huge problem and a huge trap. And so I know we're going to get into the weeds on all this stuff today, but that's really, lawyers are they're focused on getting the work done.
So it's like they kind of feel stuck in that reactive mode. How can they begin to kind of take back control of their time? You have any advice on that?
Yeah, of course I do. I mean, I find that when I work with a new lawyer, one of the first things I have to do is sort of evaluate how they're investing their time or spending their time. And one thing that I recommend all busy professionals do, not just lawyers, is track a day or two. Think about starting at 6 a.m. and ending at 7 p.m. and really look at your day and everything that kind of went down. And it's amazing what can come out of an exercise like that, because you didn't realize you had been doom scrolling on LinkedIn for a half an hour here, or you didn't realize that you were printing out contracts and estate plans or whatever it was for an hour a day or 2 hours a day. And you're, focusing on answering questions from associates all the time. Okay, I get that. But if you track it, you start to realize, hey, there's 2-3 hours, 4 hours a day that were either unproductive. They weren't focused on the billable hour. They weren't focused on lead generation. And the question that you want to ask yourself are these things that I'm doing either necessary? Are they things that could be delegated, automated, and not necessarily need to fall in my bailiwick of what I'm doing during the day? And I think lawyers just kind of have the day, but really the day has them. And then it's another day in a week, and then it goes by, and then realize it's years. It all adds up.
When it comes to like prioritization, like how can lawyers kind of distinguish between that high value work and then maybe those tasks that don't like truly contribute to the goals that they're trying to get after?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. There's a number of books on this subject. One of them that Brian Tracy wrote was called Eat the Frog. And essentially what that is saying is, hey, you've got one nasty, hairy thing that you need to do that day. Do it first. Knock out the big project or knock out the thing that you want to do the least, like eating a frog, right? Nobody's interested in that. And so, I think, getting a list of what you're going to do for the day, or what you're, planning ahead for the day, and recognizing what are the key elements of what would make a successful day. What are the priorities? Do those first, knock them out, and the rest of it can sort of flow downhill from there.
So how do you recommend attorneys kind of consistently make time for business development when they're like already overwhelmed with all the things that you kind of been talking about?
Yeah, that's another good question. Wow, these are great questions. The gist is that the prioritization, the planning ahead, the identification of where the roadblocks are, where the client emergencies typically happen, when the day gets hijacked, is just the knowledge of what's going on around you is half the battle, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's a matter of not only the prioritization, planning ahead, but figuring out how do you delegate. And I just give you one example. A managing partner is doing everything, right? They're billing hours, they're running the firm, they're doing the work, and everything in between. And they're just afraid to give up control, or they're afraid to give up
Right.
anything that they're doing, when in reality, there's so much of their day that could be delegated. And there are people that are on their team that would be thrilled to take over a certain part of a matter, or take over some administrative tasks or marketing tasks or whatever it might be. And I find that it's that either perfectionist mentality, or the, I'll just do it myself, sort of resignation that lawyers have. It's just easier to do it myself than to train someone on it. And they don't realize that all these things add up. And then the ability to grow, to go out and get business and develop business, that gets pushed to the bottom, and they never get around to it. And this happens not only day after day, week after week, but in some cases for lawyers, years and years and years. And I have lawyers that come to me literally in their 50s, and they've never built a book of business. It's never been a priority. It's always been about the billable hour and just kind of getting through the day. And I'm not saying they're living a bad life, but ultimately they realize, hey, I don't have control. I don't have freedom. I don't have the flexibility, the financial stability that I had planned on as a lawyer. Ultimately, I need to go back to the basics of, how do I get my time under control, build my book of business so that I can at least go through my 50s, 60s, and 70s, potentially, controlling what's going on and not living out of my inbox, or being, kind of pushed around by the day.
What about scheduling though, Steve? Like, do you encourage blocking that time for marketing, networking, and maybe following up? How do you kind of like the structure that should the lawyers be in when it comes to this kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I did a Pilates class this morning, and it's 6:30. I asked me if I wanted to be there.
That's so
No,
true.
I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to get up at, I was up at 3:30 for some reason, but I didn't want to even, go to that class and do those exercises. By the way, they did a lot of abs. It was very, very hard. Okay. But in some respects, if we think about what, eat the frog, what's the hardest thing that we can do in a day, and we knock it out first thing, time block it. It's in my calendar. It's important to me. I paid for it. They're expecting me to fill that seat. Someone else isn't getting the seat because I took it. There's all these things that allow us to stay consistent, build habits, and time blocking is a big part of it. So if you're struggling with business development, putting an hour or two in your calendar early in the morning to get out emails, to do the email, to do the LinkedIn post, to do a podcast, whatever it is that's important to you, and do it early and time block it, and make it a priority. Don't allow your day to run over it and just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. The other thing that I work with lawyers on too is setting up accountability buddies. So for example, there's a LinkedIn pod this morning that I'm a part of with a number of my clients. And between 8 and 9 a.m. Central, we all are committed to creating posts on LinkedIn, sending them in an email to the others, commenting and sharing on those posts. And then we get the value of having expanded networks look at our content. But we have to do that as a team. If it's just individuals doing it without the accountability of others waiting on them, sometimes that's the mistake. Like having a workout friend, having a Pilates class, better than saying, oh, I'll just blow it off today. It doesn't really impact anybody, if I just don't do it today. Same thing with business development. Well, it's not, I've got work to do. I'll just do that, and I'll do that tomorrow. And then it just rolls and it forward, and it never happens. And this is why people find themselves so far behind on their brand, thought leadership, business development. It all is connected because it never gets the priority that it should.
If you had one tool or maybe habit or recommendation, what would that made a significant difference for your clients? What would it be?
I would say one of the main things is really getting organized with your email. There are lawyers that are getting, inundated with hundreds and hundreds of emails a day, and they're just living out of their inbox, and they're just triaging the day through their inbox, trying to figure out, like, this one's angry and this one's not, and this one needs me, and they're trying to get through. And then they got, 1,000, 2,000 unopened emails that they got to deal with and like do it over the weekend because they're just so backlogged. And I read a book years ago that, because I'm built, by the way, Evan, like a feather on the wind, right? I'm not an organized person. I've never been organized until I read a book called Getting Things Done by David Allen. it's such an important book to me that in addition to sending my books to my clients when they start with me, I also include that book. So anyone that's disorganized and is wondering like, how did, what is Steve Fretzin teaching and how do I become organized? I'm not saying that book is the be all end all for everyone, but there are strategies and tactical actions in that book that made a life-changing, experience for me.
Wow.
One of the main things it talks about is email and how to start organizing your email. And this is not a brag. This is just the reality. I have had a zero inbox for about 18 years.
Wow.
I just haven't had a backlog because I don't know that it'd be easy for me to go to sleep knowing that there's a dozen, 24, 100 people that I haven't followed up with that I promised I would. Like committing to things and performing and executing on commitments is sort of the baseline of where people should be in client service and dealing with people. And so if you're behind because you're not organized with your email, it affects relationships. It affects your ability to stay consistent with commitments you've made. And the worst thing is when you get behind, it's the weight on your shoulders and the weight you feel because you're behind on things. So getting strategies together, and I'll give one example that I do. So I get out of every newsletter. I don't read newsletters in my inbox. So I'm getting, 10, 20, 30 subscriptions for some reason to newsletters that I never signed up for. Right. And I put them into junk right away. Like as soon as I see them, put them into junk. In some instances, I have my VA, my virtual assistant, going into my inbox and clearing out the clutter for me. So that might be something to consider that what are the BS emails that you're getting every day that are cluttering up and taking away your time? Can you get your paralegal, your assistant, someone in your office to go into your inbox and clear all that out? Right. That could be one thing. Another is just organizing them. Clients get priorities. So maybe I'm going to put all my clients in a particular box and handle those first. And then everything else gets done set in a secondary position. But having a system for how you organize your day, your email, all of it is gonna change someone's course of how they run their life and how they become very organized in being able to go out and get business.
So how can delegating or maybe outsourcing these tasks kind of effectively free up this time, for maybe more impactful activities?
Yeah, I mean, there's a rule I call like the $20 an hour rule. And so if you track your day, as we mentioned earlier, or you just consider looking at the time that you're spending in your inbox, whatever it might be, the question you have to ask as a $500, $700, $1,000 an hour professional, that are you making that money, or are you making $20 an hour as a paid assistant, marketing assistant, admin in your inbox, dealing with the minutia of that inbox versus maybe having someone else go through it as a gatekeeper, having somebody say, Mr. Fretzin is, wants to schedule a time with you. Here's a scheduling link that will allow you to do that. Or here's a couple dates and times that work for him. What works for you? Now, I'm not doing that. My assistant is doing that. So instead of dealing with 300 emails a day, maybe I'm dealing with 100. So instead of 6 hours a day in my inbox, maybe it's down to 2 hours. Well, what's that extra 4 hours? That's billable time. That's business development time. That's marketing time. Maybe it's time with my family. You have the ability to, as you get more and more organized, decide how you want to spend the time that you're now getting back.
What mindset shifts are necessary for these lawyers, who want to move from just being busy to truly being productive? What would you kind of say to these people as far as shifting that mindset?
Well, if people have been following me for a while, they're going to say, this is Steve's go-to. Become a student of the game of time management. I don't think if time is money. So with lawyers, for most lawyers, time is legitimately money. They're getting paid for their time. Yet you're not a student of the game of time management. So what does that mean? That means you're wasting time, or in this case, wasting money. So if we can get organized and invest our time in billable hours, taking care of clients, finding new business, and make that our focus, think about, that you're going to be building not only $1 million plus, book of business, but you're going to be in control and you're going to get to spend free time with your family or doing things you enjoy and not, again, being, told what to do by 10 clients and 5 partners that are all feeding you business as a service attorney who doesn't have control of their time or their book of business or the book of business that comes from having control of your time. So it all, again, it's all connected. And so we have to really be a student of the game to even learning business development, learning networking, and having a plan and execution saves you time. There are lawyers that spend 300-400 hours a year on business development and don't have much to show for it. So you're burning the hours invested. You're not getting the results. So that's opportunity cost lost. Because why? Because you haven't been a student of the game of business development. You haven't read my books. You haven't listened to this or my other podcast. You haven't read my articles. You haven't been watching YouTube videos, the things that are going to help you. You haven't hired a coach, whether that's me or someone else. So you're going to just figure it out on your own. Okay. I'm going to go figure out how to be a lawyer right now. I've watched My Cousin Vinny. I've seen Law and Order. I can become a lawyer, right? Yeah. No, I'll be, torn apart by the other lawyers and the judges within minutes. So why do you think you should just spin your wheels figuring all this out on your own when other people can guide you directly to where the prize is? It doesn't make sense.
So we talked about time management. We talked about maybe emails, but what's another small thing or a realistic change a busy lawyer can make maybe this week to take more control of their time?
Well, I'm going to give you something that I did 5-6 years ago, and I cannot tell you that I could go back and function without it. And I'll hold it up right now for everybody to see that's watching. It is called a Remarkable 2. There's a Remarkable 1, Remarkable 2, and now a Remarkable 3 or Pro. This is a note-taking tablet. And I tried the iPad and it just didn't feel like paper. And the iPad is distracting because it has all the other apps on there and everything else. All this device does is allow me to take notes. Okay. Wow. But every note that I take is in a folder. It's organized. It's uploaded into my Dropbox. And so I have 0 paper. So I have a 0 inbox. Wow. I have 0 paper. I have no boxes of paper, right? And I can use this so every time I speak with someone, a client, a prospective client, a networker, I have all the notes right in front of me, easily findable in a folder. And I don't know that lawyers are organized in that way. And so that organization, the lack of paper, I used to have Post-it notes. I used to have business cards. I used to, again, kind of a disorganized thing. And this has been an absolute game changer for my time because everything I need is right at my fingertips. I'm running a meeting next week. I take the PDF of the agenda. I download it to my Remarkable 2. Then I can take notes on top of that. Wow. So and I'm using like 20% of its actual use. So somebody that really wants to get involved with this, and I'm not getting paid as a sponsor of Remarkable 2. I've probably gotten 20 different people to use it. And not one of them has come back to me and said, what a waste of money that was. Right. That's like a surgeon wanting to not spend money on a great scalpel. Right. I think you want the right tools. If you're a busy professional, get the right tools. And this tool has been absolutely a game changer for me in how organized I've become.
Awesome. Steve, sir, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. This was great. And hopefully, again, helping everybody be that lawyer, a little more organized than you were before you heard this podcast today.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening to today's episode of Be That Lawyer, Coach's Corner with Steve Fretzin. If you're ready to take back control of your calendar and build a practice with intention, visit BeThatLawyer.com to learn more. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review if you found this information helpful. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.